Yeah. Alright. Ooh. Yeah, that should work. You can do it. Put your pin into it. Alright, so we have a four-step method. Our first step is to find the derivative. Right? And set it equal to 0. And that whole key process is based on that idea that this slope is negative, this slope is positive, and this slope is 0, right? And we're trying to find that point at which it's 0, where the slope is 0, okay? And that would be that bottom point. Or it would be the top point, or what we call the vertex. Question? Question? Alright, so to find the derivative, another way to look at that is also 2ax plus b equals 0. Okay? And the way they got 2 was they took this first exponent and they multiply it by the coefficient. Okay? So this is f of x equals, okay? So f prime of x is equal to negative 4x plus 8. Because 2 times 2 is 4, and 1 times 8 is 8. Okay? And then we set that equal to 0 and we solve. So we say minus 8, and we get negative 4x equals negative 8. And then we divide by negative 4. We divide by negative 4. We get x is equal to 2. Okay? X is equal to 2. That's your first step. That's the axis of symmetry. Remember, all it's doing is finding the x, right? It's not finding the y, it just found the x. The vertex is the x and the y. All we found was the x. Now the one thing we do want to answer some of the questions. They ask you, does it open up or does it open down? So the first question is, hey, does it open up or does it open down? And you should be able to look at this and tell me, does it open up or down? Is it happy or frowning? It opens down. Yes. It opens like this because it's frowning, right? Because this is minus, so it's going to look like this guy, right? So it opens downward. And what we call that is a maximum value, right? Because this point is going to be the highest point. Does that make sense? Or the max. This point would be the lowest point or the minimum. Does that make sense? So in this case, it's going to be a maximum value. Okay? And then they ask you, well, what's the axis of symmetry? Okay? And the axis is equal to 2. Okay? That's what that first step is. The first step is always to find the axis of sym. Okay? Now my second step is to find y. That's all. To find y. And if I know y, then I know x and y, which is the vertex. Does that make sense? So I'm going to take the axis and I'm going to plug that in. Alright, so I'm going to take the function with respect to the axis, and that's going to equal the vertex. Okay? Or it's going to give me y. Does that make sense? So I plug in x. So I call this the plug it in. Plug it in, plug it in. Okay? So I plug it in. I don't know that they have that commercial anymore. You guys are probably too young. They used to make these plug-in air fresheners. It used to be on the commercial. Plug it in, plug it in.
I have a bunch of plug-in air fresheners.
You do? See? They still make them. Alright. So we just plug it in. So we're going to say, hey, f of 2 is equal to negative 2x squared plus 8x plus 5. Okay? And so when we plug in, we're going to plug in a 2. Right? And then we say, okay, well, what is 2 squared? 4. What's 4 times negative 2? Negative 8. Uh-oh. Yeah, that's right. Okay, then what's 2 times 8? 16. Is this half? Is this one's twice as big as the other? Right? Because that's what's important. Then we know we're doing it right. We know we're doing it right. It's huge. Okay? Plus 5. Okay, and then we say, hey, what is negative 8 plus 16? 8, right? And then what is 8 plus 5? 13. And the reason why we put it in this f of 2 equals 13 is for this reason. 2, 13. Look at that. There's my vertex. It's already kind of in the formula. You see what I'm saying? The form of the vertex. It's in the coordinate form. 2 and 13. And that was part C. And then for part D, they ask you, well, what is the y-intercept? Well, what's my part 3? The y-intercept, right? I tell you, find f of 0. And that equals C. Right? So this is A, B, and C. So in this case, f of 0 is going to equal 5, right? Because 0 squared is 0, 0 times negative 2 is 0, and 0 times 8 is 0, and 0 plus 0 is 0, and 0 plus 5 is 5. Okay? So this is 0 and 5. And so now we have the y-intercept, right? And we have the vertex. And then they tell you to graph it. But before I tell you to graph it, I tell you to get one more point. Because it's nice to have the other point. I call it the point of symmetry. And it's really, really easy. Think about it. If I have a graph, right? And this is the axis of sym, right? Then this y-intercept is going to be 2 of these axes to get to here, right? Even if it's coming on this side, it's still 2 of them. Always going to be 2 of them. No matter which way I'm going. Right? I could be coming this way. And it's still going to be 2 of them. Or 2 of them.
I like your faces.
Are they good? Are they face? Oh, they are faces. Woo! Alright. So, I was thinking they were turning into something else. I was like, oh, it's not appropriate. Okay, let me put the other ones down there. Alright, so now let's graph it. Well, we can't graph it. We need that 4th step. What's my 4th step? My 4th step is always f of 2 times that axis. 2 times it. And it should equal c. So I should be able to go, okay, what's the axis? 2 times, the axis is 2. Okay, 2 times 2 should equal c. So f of 4 equals, and then I plug it in, negative 2 times 4 squared plus 8 times 4 plus 5. And then we ask ourselves, what is 4 squared? 16. What's 16 times negative 2? Negative 32. What's 4 times 8? 32. What's negative 32 and 32? 0. So what are we left with? 5. So we get 4 and 5. Okay? And that's what we get. So that's good. So we have 3. We have 1, 2, and then 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, right? And at 2, 13, I have the vertex. 2, 13 is the vertex, right? Where's the y-intercept? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. At 0, 5, I have the y-intercept. Okay? So that means it's coming down like this. The axis of symmetry is at 2. Means it looks like this. Okay? And then I have my symmetrical point, which is at 4 and 5, which is like this. Right? And so we have our graph. This is my 4, 5 point. I call it the point of symmetry. The point of sim. Okay? Alright. And that's how you graph that. Now what we're going to find out is, on the next stuff, is how do we know where it crosses here? Right? And what multiplies to be 10 and subtracts to be 8? Multiplies to be 10 and subtracts to be 8. Nothing. So we'd have to use quadratic formula to do that. So these are going to be some irrationals. That's okay. We're going to do that eventually, not today. Quadratic formula is coming, right? We're not going to do it now.